The purpose of this exercise is to show you that whatever you're doing right now, day to day, consistently, that is who you will be in the next 5 years. In this video, I kind of want to walk through how you can stay in shape 90% of the time throughout the year. And also, it's going to kind of break what you believe about staying in shape. I'm not going to go over counting calories, counting macros, exercises you can do. I'm going to really get into the nitty gritty behind your mentality, your psychology behind why you do what you do and how to really get results that are sustainable. So back in the day, I actually used to be pretty out of shape, and it happened in college. You know how they talk about the freshman 15? Well, I definitely gained that joint, and it happened slowly because my first year, it wasn't that noticeable. You know, like we had access, unlimited access to the cafeteria or the lunch, what was it called? The dining hall. It was problematic. Like I would be going there multiple times a day when I was not even hungry, if I was just bored and wanted to like hang out with friends or, you know, just do something to fill time. I would just go there and I would eat. I would have like cookies and pizza and pasta and sandwiches and just random stuff. And I was really inconsistent with training. Like I would probably train randomly. It was like whenever I felt like training basically is when I would train. And it was bad, man. Like I gained a lot of weight, and by the time I was in my second year of college, I continued this habit, bro. And we had this place called the Castle. It was like this late night spot where you could go get food, and I would go there and go get like bacon, egg, and cheese on a biscuit at like 11 o'clock at night. And that just continued for about 3 years in college, and I gained a lot of weight during this time. So I am familiar with the process of getting in shape, and then also I'm familiar with what it's like just unconsciously getting out of shape and what that feels like. Because it's interesting, because during that time you kind of lie to yourself and tell yourself that you're fine and that you look just like you used to, but subconsciously you know that that's not the truth. So first, I just want to start off by saying that the problem is not information. We have unlimited information right now with the internet, with AI. You could literally go on ChatGPT right now and ask ChatGPT to make you a workout plan to gain muscle while losing fat. But the thing is that information isn't enough. Like, how many times do we have information and not make progress towards our goals, even though we have black and white what we need to do? That is so many people's issue with fitness, is that we know what to do, but despite of this, we're unable to follow through on the actions that support the information that we receive. I realized this, like I had the information. I was a kinesiology major at UVA, so like I literally studied exercise and the human body and how the human body moves and how to properly build muscle and nutrition and exercise physiology. And despite this, for 3 out of my 4 years in college, I was insanely out of shape. So this just goes to prove that information is not enough to keep you in shape. It really does come down to your psychology. It comes down to how you view staying in shape and how you approach it as well. So when I first started working out, kind of accidentally, I read this book by this guy named Alexander Haney. It's called Master Today. I actually have the book right here. Sometimes I go back and review some of the concepts in this book because it really was life-changing for me at the time, and it just coincided with when I started to work out. And it was interesting because at the time I was starting to get fatigued and I didn't know if it was sustainable, but he presented an interesting idea that broke my beliefs about working out and staying in shape. He said that he maintained a six-pack throughout the year. He worked out consistently and he just was in shape and he felt great. Like his mobility was amazing. His flexibility was on point. His cardiovascular abilities were on point. He was also gaining muscle. That really just broke a lot of my beliefs around working out. I was like, if this guy can do it, or someone can do it, I can do it as well. That is the takeaway that I got from this particular video that I was watching. And then he linked his book, and that's when I went and bought this, and then I really got the nitty gritty on how he formed his psychology around working out. So in his book, he talks about interviews that he did with people who had lost significant amounts of weight. So people who had lost 10 to 20 to 30, 40, 50 pounds of weight. But the caveat about these people is that they didn't just lose the weight, but they kept it off for multiple years after losing the weight. I'm sure you know people who lose weight or have major health changes, and then within a couple months or a year, they're right back, if not worse, from where they started. So he noticed this phenomena, and he decided to interview the people who were able to lose the weight and keep it off for multiple years after. What he found within this group was a common denominator, what all these people were doing that the other people were not. And it wasn't counting calories, it wasn't some special Mediterranean diet, it wasn't a low carb diet, it wasn't anything like that. It was actually their inner psychology. It was the narrative that they were telling themselves about working out. And it's interesting because that's the exact thing that broke my mental schema towards working out. I believed that working out wasn't something that was sustainable, that I could do year round. It wasn't something that I felt like I could keep up. And it wasn't until I saw him break it down in the way that he did that I was like, wait, this is breaking my mental narrative about this particular topic. And that was the first time that I started telling myself and changing the narrative and telling myself that, hey, this is something I can do. It's very possible. I just have to prioritize it, and I just have to be consistent. So the idea of the narrative is essentially the story that we're telling ourselves about ourselves. And this can relate to so many different aspects of life that isn't just working out. It could honestly relate to business. It can relate to our relationships. It can relate to our education, our careers, our families, our relationship with our fathers, our mothers, our relationships with ourselves, which is probably the most important one. It's all a bunch of stories that we're telling ourselves about ourselves. And I could go on a tangent about the other ones, but right now I just want to focus on fitness. So what is the story you're telling yourself about your fitness? Are you telling yourself that I'm not the type of person who can stay in shape? I'm not the type of person who likes to run. I don't like to do treadmill. I don't like to play sports. I don't like to be outside, or I don't have time. That's a really popular one. What is the story that you're telling yourself? What is the thing that you're constantly giving yourself as a way out of believing that you can actually accomplish your goals? For example, for me, for years, I told myself I'm not a runner. I hate running. In middle school, I was on the track team, and I did it really because of my friends and just because I wanted to do a sport and be active. But in all reality, I hated running. And I told myself I wasn't a runner. I wasn't a good runner. And that manifested itself. Like, I sucked for my first year and a half of running. And it wasn't until I pushed myself to one day keep up with one of my friends on the 800-meter race and eventually passed him and beat him. And from then I started to be one of the top people on the track team. And it was literally within the span of one meet. The only thing that changed was the story I was telling myself. I didn't get faster. I didn't train any different. I didn't eat any different. I literally just changed the story I told myself about myself, and I completely changed my results. So that's literally how impactful this is. If you're really able to hold on to this, then it could really change the trajectory of your fitness journey. Now, more into the nitty-gritty. What are your daily habits? I want you to take a mental, if not physical, note of the daily habits that you do. So from the time you wake up, grab a notepad, or you can use your phone on the Notes app. I think it's more impactful if you use like a physical pen and paper, but if you just have the Notes app, you can go ahead and do that as well. Just go ahead and write down your different habits throughout the day. What are you doing? Do you wake up, immediately turn around, scroll on your phone, check Instagram, scroll Twitter, go on Reddit, check YouTube, and then you snooze your alarm button, roll out of bed 15 minutes late, go to the kitchen, grab a sugary dessert with a coffee, and you just kind of lounge around all day. Then at the end of the day, you've had a hard time, you've had a long day, so you go ahead and Uber Eats some food. You get the gist. Like, what are your habits? And maybe you're the complete opposite. Maybe you wake up early, you cold plunge, you run a mile, and then you freaking like jump off a mountain. I don't know. Whatever it is your habits are, just go ahead and take note of that throughout a day. And the purpose of this exercise is to show you that whatever you're doing right now, day to day, consistently, that is who you will be in the next 5 years. Literally, who you are in the next 5 years is just a result of the habits that you're doing today. So if you want to be an Olympic track runner, if your only habits today are watching TV and smoking weed or whatever it is, then in 5 years, guess what? You're not going to be an Olympic track runner because you're not putting any steps towards that goal. The only way you're going to be able to do that is if you go outside and run for 5 minutes. And then the next day you run for 6 minutes. You get the gist? And then also a way way that is very helpful to get yourself to start doing exercise is to trick yourself into doing exercise. So for example, if you want to do 100 push-ups, that's a very daunting number. 100 push-ups, you'll be sitting there on your couch, you'll be like, man, I'm not doing that. That's insane. Like 100 push-ups, bro, like nah. So you have to trick yourself and say, hey, I'm gonna just do one. Let me just do one push-up. Then you do one push-up. That one push-up turns into 2. That second push-up turns into 3 to 4 to 5. Then maybe you stop at 10. That's okay, because guess what? The 10 is better than 0. And then one day you'll eventually do the 100 push-ups. It doesn't always happen all at once. Sometimes it can, but that's not always the case. The goal here is to build discipline and consistency. So you're working to break that initial restraint that's keeping you from doing the task. And once you're able to break that initial restraint, you'll be able to start the task at the very least, which is extreme progress. So you can't just count yourself out of doing the task because you don't complete the task to its completion. By that, let's say it's 100 push-ups. Focus on just doing something. So focus on walking for 5 minutes and then watch how that habit begins to build as you consistently focus on disciplining yourself to do at least a portion of whatever it is you set yourself out to do. So this also relates to my third point of just avoiding perfectionism. Perfectionism is the enemy of progress. Progress is literally non-linear. It isn't always going to be that one day or for 1 month you're perfect in terms of your workout schedule. It's just not realistic. Life happens, especially if you're busy and you have other goals and you have family, you have friends, you have a social life, or you just have other interests. Like it's not practical to think that you'll be able to be absolutely perfect on your fitness regimen. So give yourself some grace. Learn to overcome perfection and just focus on progress. So if you're able to do these 3 things that I'm mentioning now, which is identifying your narrative, identifying your daily habits, overcoming perfectionism, you'll be light years ahead of the majority of the population in terms of reaching your fitness goals. So you can see how this isn't necessarily focused on counting calories or doing the perfect workout routine or tracking macros or anything like that. It's literally just focused on the narrative that you tell yourself in your daily habits and overcoming perfectionism. And once you're able to institute those things into your life, I think you'll be able to see a lot more progress towards your goals. So if you found this helpful, go ahead and hit the like button, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. It really helps out the channel. I have a obviously very small channel here. I'm just starting. I'm trying to put out 100 videos and then see how it goes, just improve a little bit on each video. But I appreciate the support. So thank you guys and see you guys in the next video.